Good morning, students. The topic of today's lecture is President of India. This is part 3 of the lecture. It contains emergency powers of the President. The lecture is for BA1 Semester 2 students studying Indian administration. The objective of this lecture is to make the students understand the emergency powers of the President. There are 3 emergency powers of the President of India. One is national emergency, and it is under Article 352 of the Indian Constitution. Second powers are under Article 356. It is also known as the President's rule in a state. The third emergency power is under Article 360, and it concerns with the financial emergency. We will also study the effects of emergency under Article 352, यानी कि नेशनल इमरजेंसी, आर्टिकल 356 जो प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल स्टेट में होता है, एंड आर्टिकल 360 जिसे वित्तीय इमरजेंसी भी कहते हैं. Part 18 of the Indian Constitution consists of Article 352 to 360. These provide for the emergency provisions to the President of India to deal with emergent situations like war, threat of war, failure of the constitutional machinery in a state, or due to financial reasons. या तो लड़ाई हो या लड़ाई का थ्रेट हो, या किसी स्टेट में जो संवैधानिक तंत्र है अगर वो फेल होता है, या फाइनेंशियल रीजंस, वित्तीय रीजंस के कारण प्रोविजन है कि इमरजेंसी लागू कर सकते हैं. नेशनल इमरजेंसी. According to Article 352, if the President of India is satisfied that a grave emergency exists due to which India's security or any part of its territory thereof is threatened, he may by proclamation make a declaration to that effect. This declaration can be made in respect of the whole of India, पूरे भारत के ऊपर लागू हो सकती है, और a part of the specified territory या उसके कुछ भाग में हो सकती है. It can be declared due to war, लड़ाई हो, और external aggression, कोई कंट्री हमारे ऊपर वॉर करना चाहे, लड़ाई चाह रहा है, या एग्रेशन है, या आर्म्ड रिबेलियन है. If the president is satisfied that there is an imminent danger of war or external aggression or armed rebellion, then such a proclamation of emergency can be made even before the actual occurrence of such a situation. एक तो लड़ाई हो रही है उस दौरान हो सकता है, और दूसरा जब ऐसी आशंका हो कि लड़ाई होने वाली है, तब भी प्रेसिडेंट आर्टिकल 352 के अंडर इमरजेंसी प्रोक्लेम कर सकते हैं. ऑफ इमरजेंसी यानी कि इमरजेंसी किस तरह से लागू की जाती है. The President of India proclaims emergency under Article 352 after the Union Cabinet communicates to him in writing. President of India जब यूनियन कैबिनेट लिखित रूप में देती है तब इमरजेंसी आर्टिकल 352 के अंडर लागू करते हैं. The proclamation has to be laid before each house of the parliament within a month, otherwise it ceases to operate. तो 1 महीने के बीच में लोकसभा और राज्यसभा के सामने ये प्रोक्लेमेशन रखनी पड़ेगी. It has to be approved by resolutions of both the houses of the parliament by an absolute majority of the total membership of that house and by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of that house present and voting. In case the House of People is dissolved, अगर लोकसभा dissolved है तो, or is dissolved within a month, या इमरजेंसी लागू होने के महीने के बीच में वो डिसॉल्व हो जाती है बिना पास किए प्रोक्लेमेशन, तब ये प्रोक्लेमेशन काउंसिल ऑफ स्टेट्स या राज्यसभा के सामने रखी जाएगी. So then it is placed before the Council of States or the Rajya Sabha. So if Lok Sabha is dissolved, then it is placed within the month in front of the Rajya Sabha. If the Council of States, अगर Council of States उसे पास कर देते हैं तो वो रहेगी, और अगर पास नहीं करते तो वो खत्म हो जाएगी. It ceases to have an effect. So if the Council of States passes the proclamation, it must be placed and passed by the House of People within 1 month of its reconstitution. तो अगर राज्यसभा पास कर देता है फिर भी उसे लोकसभा के सामने रखना पड़ेगा 1 महीने के भीतर जब लोकसभा का गठन हो जाएगा. If the Lok Sabha does not pass the proclamation, then it ceases. If the House passes it, then unless revoked, it ceases to operate on the expiration of 6 months from the passing of the second of the resolutions. तो अगर लोकसभा पास कर देती है तो अगर उसको रिवोक नहीं किया जाता वो 6 महीने तक लागू रहेगी. If both the houses pass a resolution to continue it, then it continues for a further period of 6 months. अगर दोनों हाउस ये दोबारा पास कर देते हैं कि इमरजेंसी लागू रहेगी, तब ये 6 महीने और के लिए लागू रहती है. ऑफ इमरजेंसी यानी जो इमरजेंसी लागू हुई है उसको हटाना. Proclamation of emergency can be revoked by a notice in writing signed by not less than 1/10 of the total number of members of the House of People, यानी 1/10 of जो मेंबर्स हैं लोकसभा के, अगर वो लिखित तौर पे देंगे कि इमरजेंसी हटाना चाहते हैं तब उसे रिवोक की जाए. Such a resolution is considered within 14 days from the date the speaker, अगर लोकसभा डिसॉल्व नहीं है, और the president, अगर लोकसभा डिसॉल्व है तो, receives the resolution as the case may be in a special sitting of the House. Effects of emergency under Article 352, that is national emergency. The term of the Lok Sabha can be extended by the Parliament by law for a period not exceeding 1 year at a time. लोकसभा की टर्म जो नॉर्मल टर्म 5 साल की है उसको एक्सटेंड किया जा सकता है 1 साल एक समय. However, it cannot be extended beyond a period of 6 months after the proclamation has ceased to operate. अगर इमरजेंसी खत्म हो जाती है तब वो 6 महीने से ज्यादा एक्सटेंड नहीं किया जा सकता. The executive power of the union government extend to the states, and it can issue directions to the states on any matter, thereby adopting a unitary system instead of the quasi-federal system. यानी कि यूनियन गवर्नमेंट स्टेट्स को डायरेक्शंस दे सकती है और हमारा सारा सिस्टम जो क्वासी फेडरल सिस्टम है वो यूनिटरी सिस्टम के हिसाब से चलेगा जब तक इमरजेंसी आर्टिकल 352 की रहेगी. The president gets the power to alter, redistribute the financial sources between the center and the states. भारत के राष्ट्रपति जो फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज वित्तीय रिसोर्सेज केंद्र और राज्यों में बांटे जाते हैं उसको चेंज कर सकते हैं या उसको नए तौर पे रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं. Fundamental rights of the citizens, except the right to life and personal liberty, can be suspended. इन दोनों राइट्स को छोड़ के बाकी जो भी राइट्स हैं फंडामेंटल राइट्स उनको सस्पेंड किया जा सकता है. The right to move any court for the enforcement of the fundamental rights is suspended. तो आप कोर्ट में नहीं जा सकते. And the law-making power of the parliament extends to making law on subjects in the state list also during the spirit. Normally, parliament जब law बनाती है वो items on the union list एवं concurrent list के ऊपर बनाती है, केंद्र सूची और समवर्ती सूची. लेकिन अगर नेशनल इमरजेंसी लागू है तो पार्लियामेंट स्टेट लिस्ट के सब्जेक्ट्स पे भी आइटम्स पे भी लॉ बना सकती है. Second type of emergency is president's rule in a state under Article 356. President's rule in a state can be declared under Article 356 due to the failure of the constitutional machinery in a state and under Article 365 on a state's failure to comply with or give effect to the directions given by the union. या तो स्टेट में जो संवैधानिक तंत्र है वो फेल हो जाए तो आर्टिकल 356 के अंडर प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल लागू किया जा सकता है. अब दूसरा आर्टिकल 365 के अंडर अगर स्टेट सेंटर की डायरेक्शंस को नहीं मानेगा तब भी लागू हो सकता है. Proclamation of emergency under Article 356. It is also known as President's Rule in a state. It is proclaimed on one or more states. It can be declared by the President on the report of a governor of that state that the government of that state cannot be run as per the Constitution of India. उस स्टेट का गवर्नर प्रेसिडेंट को रिपोर्ट भेजता है कि इस स्टेट का तंत्र अब संवैधानिक तंत्र के हिसाब से नहीं चल सकता, तब प्रेसिडेंट एक राज्य में इमरजेंसी लागू कर सकते हैं. The president's rule has to be approved by both the houses of the parliament, like the national emergency under Article 352, but in this case, you require a simple majority. तो जैसे नेशनल इमरजेंसी में दोनों हाउसेस के सामने प्रोक्लेमेशन रखी जाती है और उसके पास होने पे ही लागू रहती है, उसी तरह से प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल इन अ स्टेट को भी दोनों हाउसेस लोकसभा और राज्यसभा के सामने रखना पड़ेगा, बट इन दिस केस simple majority is required. The proclamation is applicable for a period of 2 months and has to be approved by both the houses of the parliament. नेशनल इमरजेंसी के केस में 1 महीने में रखनी पड़ेगी, लेकिन प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल इन अ स्टेट के समय 2 महीने के भीतर दोनों हाउसेस की अप्रूवल जरूरी है. आफ्टर अप्रूवल यानी कि दोनों हाउस पास कर दें तब it remains in force for a period of 6 months unless it is revoked earlier. Proclamation of President's rule in a state can be extended again for 6 months up to 3 years. तो दोबारा अगर चाहिए तो दोबारा दोनों हाउस उसको एक्सटेंड कर सकते हैं. President's rule in a state आर्टिकल 356 के अंडर जो इफेक्ट्स हैं वो द स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली कैन ईदर बी डिसॉल्व्ड, उसको डिसॉल्व कर दिया जाएगा, उसको भंग कर दिया जाएगा, और पुट अंडर सस्पेंडेड एनिमेशन या कुछ समय के लिए उसको सस्पेंड कर दिया जाएगा. Parliament gets the power to legislate on items in the state list. तो हमारे 7th शेड्यूल में जो स्टेट लिस्ट है उसमें जितने भी आइटम्स हैं उसके ऊपर पार्लियामेंट लॉ बना सकती है. The Union Parliament passes the annual financial statement, that is the budget of the state. So wherever there is president's rule, then the budget of that state is passed by the Union Parliament. The Parliament authorizes the President to sanction expenditure from the consolidated fund of the state. हर स्टेट का एक कंसोलिडेटेड फंड होता है, जिस तरह से यूनियन का कंसोलिडेटेड फंड ऑफ इंडिया होता है. तो उसमें से मनी निकालने के लिए, उसमें से एक्सपेंडिचर करने के लिए प्रेसिडेंट सैंक्शन दे सकते. The jurisdiction of the High Court of the state cannot be curtailed. High Court अपना काम वैसे ही करते रहेंगे. And the fundamental rights of the citizens cannot be suspended when we have president's rule in a state. This slide is regarding the comparison of effects of emergency under Article 352 and 356. 352, as stated earlier, is the national emergency, and 356 is emergency or president's rule in a state or states. Basis of proclamation. When the security of India or a part of it is threatened, then we have national emergency. And here, when the constitutional machinery of the state or the states fail and they stop functioning as per the Constitution of India, then President's rule can be proclaimed. Procedure of proclamation. Requires approval of both the houses within 1 month by an absolute majority of the total membership of the houses and 2/3 majority of the members present and voting. Otherwise, it will cease to operate. Under Article 356, this also requires the approval of both the houses, but with a simple majority within 2 months. So 352 में 1 महीने में और 356 में 2 महीने में दोनों हाउसेस का अप्रूवल चाहिए. Tenure. Once approved, national emergency remains in force for a period of 6 months from the date of proclamation. It can be extended beyond 6 months by a resolution passed by the Parliament. It can continue indefinitely. Article 356. Once approved, the President's rule in a state, unless revoked earlier, cease to operate at the expiration of 6 months from the date of proclamation. हाँ, अगर extend करना है, it can be extended by 6 months each, several times, but in no case beyond 3 years. तो आप उसको बार बार एक्सटेंड कर सकते हैं, पर 3 साल से ज्यादा नहीं. और 3 साल जैसे ही खत्म होते हैं तो प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल मस्ट एंड एंड द स्टेट्स कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मशीनरी मस्ट बी रिस्टोर्ड. स्टेट एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव. जब नेशनल इमरजेंसी होती है, the state executive and state legislature continue to function as per the powers assigned by the Constitution of India. The center can give directions to any state regarding how the executive power has to be exercised. That means the functioning of the state executive and the legislature is not affected when we have emergency under Article 352. Whereas in the case of President's rule in a state, the state executive is dismissed and the state legislature may either be suspended or dissolved. The President administers this state through the governor of that state. And the Parliament makes law for the state where the President's rule has been imposed. तो स्टेट के एग्जीक्यूटिव कार्यपालक को डिसमिस कर दिया जाता है, स्टेट की असेंबली को सस्पेंड कर दिया जाता है या डिसॉल्व या भंग कर दिया जाता है, and the President administers the state through the governor. Power of the Parliament. Parliament gets power to make laws for the entire country or any part thereof, even in respect to subjects mentioned in the state list. तो जब भी आर्टिकल 352 वाली इमरजेंसी लगती है, तब पार्लियामेंट लॉ बना सकती है किसी भी आइटम पे जो स्टेट लिस्ट में है. Whereas under Article 356, Parliament gets power to make laws for only that state where the proclamation is in force under Article 356. Other states will not have any effect due to this. Term. The term of the Lok Sabha can be extended by a period of 1 year during national emergency. लोकसभा की टर्म जो 5 साल होती है वो 6 साल हो सकती है. After national emergency ceases to operate, then the term of Lok Sabha cannot be extended beyond 6 months. And the tenure of the state assemblies can also be extended in the same manner. In the case of president's rule in a state, the state legislature is either suspended or dissolved. Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights of the citizens, except the right to life and personal liberty, Article 21, and the right to protection regarding conviction of offences are suspended. The power of the courts to deal with issues related to fundamental rights is curtailed. Whereas when we have president's rule in a state, the fundamental rights of the citizens are not suspended. The power of the High Court is not curtailed. So, अगर किसी के fundamental rights infringe upon किए जाते हैं, तो वो हाई कोर्ट में जा सकते हैं. Revocation. Lok Sabha passes a resolution for the revocation of national emergency. Or Article 356 में the President of India can revoke on his own discretion. Distribution of revenue. The President of India can modify the provisions related to distribution of revenue between the center and the states whenever you have emergency under Article 352. And in the case of 356, that is President's rule, all financial matters of the state are handled by the Union Parliament. Judicial Review. The 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978 in Minerva Mills case 1980, the Supreme Court held that national emergency could be challenged in the court on the ground of it being mala fide or that the declaration was wholly based on extraneous or irrelevant facts. तो अब नेशनल इमरजेंसी अगर घोषित होती है तो उसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चैलेंज किया जा सकता है. Previously, the state emergency could not be challenged, but 44th Amendment ने वो delete कर दिया provision, so the president's satisfaction is not final and the proclamation can be challenged in the court of law. तो अगर किसी को लगता है वो गलत है, वो court of law में challenge कर सकते. Third type of emergency is the financial emergency under Article 360. As per Article 360 of the Indian Constitution, if the President is satisfied that a situation has arisen in which India's financial stability or credit or any part of it is threatened, he can proclaim financial emergency. It needs the approval by the Union Parliament. इसको भी Union Parliament approve करेगी तो ये लगेगा. It is applicable for 2 months in the first instance, but the Parliament can extend the period by a simple majority. During this time, the President can issue directions to the state governments to observe such canons of financial propriety as specified in the directions. Can order the reduction of salaries and allowances of all any class of persons serving in connection with the affairs of the state as well as the judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court. Money bills passed by the state legislative assemblies may be reserved for the consideration of the president. तो जो गवर्नर हैं वो रिजर्व कर सकते हैं मनी बिल्स और प्रेसिडेंट के पास पावर है कि वो उसको हाँ या ना कहें. Can take any other measures to restore the financial stability of the state. Thank you.